welcome to Property Mythbusters. I'm John Gilmovich from Real Property Manager.
I'm Debra Beck-Mewing from Crave Property Advisory.
And I'm Ken from Avvora Finance. So we're here to bust myths around the property investing space. And in the next 10 minutes, we'll be discussing discussing the myth. There's enough information in contracts of sale to make good buying decisions.
Yeah, okay, thanks Ken. So this is a
Great
really,
topic.
it is a really hot topic, and it's really come to the surface in light of people buying into these crumbling buildings, where we've heard about people who are buying into these buildings after the issues have already, been evident for quite some time. So while vendors or sellers are supposed to include this information in their contracts, they're actually not. So what can you do to protect yourself?
Okay, so we're saying, Deborah, that the contract of sale, the standard contract of sale, doesn't always show or is not transparent in some information that's pretty vital to make a decision or not make a decision to move forward on the purchase.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you got any examples of that?
Yeah, well, apart from that example. But before we get into examples, so what can you expect to find in a contract? A lot of buyers just look at all of the information, if they're lucky, they will hand it on to a solicitor to check and validate the information included in the contract, which will be things like zoning and the block size or the property size. And they should be looking for things like caveats, which is how you use the property. Like it might say you can't put a fence out in front of your property, or a covenant, which means, actually I might have those two mixed up, but anyway, we'll talk about the ownership.
The two C's, caveats and covenants.
Yes, but there's a lot more information that you really need to get. At a bare minimum, you should be getting a building and pest inspection,
Yes,
and
right.
also a strata report if you're buying into a unit block or a townhouse block. But also, there should be more searches done, and I believe all of that information should be included in a standard contract.
Okay, so what have been some of the challenges that either you personally have had or your clients have had that
Could have been a problem?
could have been a problem down the track, wasn't really talked about during the contract checking process, or possibly the conveyancer or the property lawyer didn't pick up on, or don't really need to by law.
Yeah. So your conveyancer or your solicitor will really only look at those base structures that are included in the contract. But things like whether your property is right next door to a train station that's just about to be built, or a development, they're not really going to do that unless you actually pay for a more detailed search. But you asked about my personal situation.
Yes.
So I've had very good experience with a property that my husband and I purchased, where it was in a situation or in a location that, we're sort of right in the firing line of West Connects, which is a big infrastructure project in Sydney. And in the contract, it did actually say that there might be potential for our property to be acquired or required for that the extension of
For the purpose of infrastructure.
To build the M4.
So potentially you could be buying a property, let's say it's a cottage house in a residential, nice quiet area, where all of a sudden, or at the time of your purchase, there is actually a DA out to either compulsory acquire that property, or in fact meters or across the road, there could be a DA out for a development or an infrastructure project. And you can only find that out by doing that deeper search.
That's right, you can. And it can really impact the value of the property, your enjoyment of the property, the future financial viability of the property. So you really need to look much closer.
You really turn your life upside down.
Literally.
6
metres.
6 metres under, we heard as
buying
well.
the
Roselle interchange, yes, with the tunnel being only 6 metres away from the property.
Not everywhere, but in some parts.
In some parts, no wonder they've been lobbying hard out there.
Yeah, yes, they
are.
And so, what about you? You've got
so from a rental point of view, there's a good example as well of these hidden things that don't come up in the contracts. One of my clients purchased an off-the-plan apartment here in Sydney, and that all went fine and the property settled, and then there was a handover. And in the handover you usually get the warranty manuals, the instruction kit about the building, tips and ideas on how to take care of the property, etc. And one of the surprise things that came up was a thing called embedded energy.
Embedded or embedded?
Embedded. Or embedded.
Something.
Sounds more
scarier.
So embedded energy is actually a thing, and what embedded energy is that the original developer has done a contract with an energy supply company and possibly a telco as well, whereby they've locked in contracts for the supply of energy to the property. Now we're talking potentially gas, electricity, NBN contracts and telco contracts. So 5 to 6 utilities inside a property that basically you cannot vary or you can't compare that energy company versus another. So it's almost the whole building monopolised for you to accept and sign up with that company and that company only.
So if you were buying into a property like that,
yeah,
you wouldn't really have even known, would you?
You would have not known, and generally the developer or even the salesperson it's not even a topic of discussion. They just don't want you to know about that. It's just another objection. It could be another challenge, and it could be a reason why you would not want to buy into that strata plan as well. There's no flexibility about choosing your own energy supplier.
Yeah.
In fact, you could be paying 25 to 30% more.
Yeah.
And you just don't know.
So it's really just about making sure you ask the question.
Ask the question. Embedded energy, because it not only affects you as the property owner, it actually affects your occupant, the tenant as well. They can't vary the contracts either. No. They're stuck with that energy supplier.
Wow, that's bad. That could affect rent.
Yes.
And you were saying earlier there's an issue that comes up for you as a mortgage broker when people come with their contracts?
I guess in regards to the theme of there's not enough information on the contracts of sale. I guess there are things that can be done and negotiated on the contract of sale. And from a finance perspective, I think there's the cooling off period, just to get the valuation completed, the lender kind of vet everything to make sure that they give the green light on the security of property. But also you've got also settlement timeframes that can help if there's a need to switch lenders. It gives the opportunity to kind of look across the board abroad to see if there are any other potential products or lenders should the primary one decide not to proceed with approval, and also including a subject to finance clause in the contract of sale. These are just ways to mitigate the amount of risk involved for the whole thing not proceeding, and even deposit size. A client of mine negotiated a 5% deposit instead of a 10% deposit.
We always ask for a 5% deposit or less.
So I guess sometimes not taking the terms at face value and having a conversation and negotiating not just on the price, because the price can move. I think everyone's kind of well aware of that one, but there are other terms that can be negotiated, which helps from a finance perspective to get more time, improve the odds of getting the approval, things like that.
Okay. Another one that I had as well that's come up, something I recommend to any investor buying, is when you're purchasing a property subject to tenancy, so as currently an existing tenant in the property, you actually don't know the tenant at all, and you don't know the history of their rent payments or really anything about them. And one of the things that I advise purchasers to look at is to actually get a history ledger of the tenant's payments.
Can you do that though?
You can, and it's available information if you seek that information. I mean, it's a crucial question to ask, whether that existing tenant actually pays their rent on time and when it's due, because obviously that can affect your cash flow if they're not paying, or in fact they could be in arrears badly at the time, or possibly even worse, going to NCAT for an eviction.
That is really interesting, because I didn't think you could access that information until you had purchased it.
You can, and you can ask for it.
Right.
And you can make it subject to the actual contract as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah, just say, look, I'd like to see that the tenant is squeaky clean on the rental payments. I just cannot afford a tenant that's constantly in the arrears, or I'm going to be chasing rent for. It'll make me feel much more comfortable to actually see that this tenant pays on time.
Yeah, because we always get a statement about the rent, which we have to provide along with the contract of sale to the finance guys.
Yep.
But so maybe
food for thought.
Yes. So,
all right. Well, that's great. I mean, we touched on some vital points there. I'm sure there's many more, and of course we always seek your feedback on any of our sessions that we do. If you do have any further questions around any of our Mythbuster topics, please reach out to us on our Facebook page, Mythbusters.
Yep.
Property Mythbusters, or find us directly through our websites and our YouTube channel.
And our Property Mythbusters YouTube channel, which you might be watching us on right now. Here's hoping.
Great. Well, good to have you again. It's over and out from us for now, until we see you in about a fortnight's time. And take care.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.